The first question is, how are the future trends of the ship technology developing?
Well, that's one of the most fundamental questions that the industry will have to deal with over the next 3 to 4 years. I think, first of all, we must consider the maritime business as a whole and not be blinded purely by the announcement by Maersk to construct 10 new EEE vessels, because the ship technology to which we're referring will apply to tankers, both crude products and chemicals. It'll apply to ro-ro ferries, it'll apply to the bulk sector, general cargo ships, and the heavy lift project cargoes that currently move around the world, and I think will continue very much to do so. And also we have to look at the offshore sector, because a lot of the innovation in the maritime world has actually come from the offshore sector. As you know, the North Sea is very important in this part of the world, and the Norwegian fields and the fields under the UK sovereign control are very, very important, and some of the technology is very advanced indeed, dealing not just with ship design but dealing with all weather conditions which make their job complex and very difficult. So I think we've got to look at this very much as a broad shipping industry question for all the kinds of ships that sail at sea. In terms of all these categories, hull structures are going to be obviously fundamental, and I'm sure naval architects are focusing very much not just on hull structures in terms of energy saving, but they've got to deal, of course, with all the issue of the CO2 climate change demands that are being imposed not just by national governments, but by the UN and by the IMO and all the other international maritime agencies and organisations, notwithstanding the importance that flag states place on these environmental questions. Fuel itself is obviously going to be an area of major continued research. The International Bunker Industry Association represents the industry on a worldwide basis, and they have a very big input to the whole debate of fuel efficiency and maximising the utilisation of these great capital maritime assets through cost-effective fuel solutions. And this takes us clearly into not just sulphur-free fuels, but into LNG and gas, which will become possibly a major mode of power and energy for vessels, even in the short sea and feeder sector in northern European waters. That is going to be absolutely amazing. And if you actually look at all the feeder networks in the Far East, linking Indonesia, Malaysia, Japan, China, there is a massive network of ships there, ro-ros and lo-ros, and this energy conservation will be a dominant issue in all parts of the world. This is not restricted in any way to Northern Europe. And remember, shipping is an international business. It's a business in many ways without any borders at all. So I think we're going to see a massive sharing of technology in terms of fuel systems. And okay, Maersk are talking of the EEE of a saving of 35% less fuel per container than with the Emma class. Then that is very impressive indeed. And they're also talking about massive fuel savings and the economic efficiency of carrying greater numbers of containers on the main trade routes from China and the Far East to Northern Europe. And I think the other factor, we shouldn't forget noise pollution. Noise pollution is a very big issue, which is an energy issue. And cavitation from propeller is a major factor in noise pollution. Is receiving incredibly high levels of technical innovation and review at this moment. We had bow-burst bows introduced a good 20 years ago now, and we're seeing new structures with bows to minimise the resistance in various sea conditions. And of course, at the centre of all this is weather patterns, which are clearly changing, and ship technology has to take account of that as well. And I think it's interesting that we should never underestimate the issue of paint technology. This is a massive issue in terms of the efficiency of vessels and their transit through the waters of the world. I mean, for example, the average big new cruise liner or large new cruise liner will probably involve 350 tons of paint when it's constructed and she departs from the yard. So paint technology has got a major role here, and I think all these things coming together with a worldwide think tank on the way forward, since shipping will still carry the dominant part of world trade in years to come.